the Texans have done – they've done a lot when it comes to the secondary in this offseason. And they've done a lot. I don't know if people are comfortable with it. I would say it's probably the area on the field outside of offensive line that I'm probably – like if we talk about positions, offensive line, receivers, backs, quarterback, all of that, D-line, for me, the secondary would be behind the offensive line, the one that I have most questions and concerns about for the Texans. But they have done a lot. Obviously, we know Derek Stingley is there, and his second half of the year was one of the best in the game last year. And they brought in Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson, 2 former top 10 picks that are now on their third teams. They brought in Ford from Cleveland as well. And then they drafted Kamari Lassiter, who looks to be either a nickel or an outside corner. A lot of people think nickel like Clint. And they obviously they still have Des King there. And then the safeties, Ward, Petrie, and then the kid you really like out of USC, Bullock, and Lon. Lon is still in that secondary, or still he was added, Lonnie Johnson, to that secondary. And I think the Texans secondary should be helped by what could be one of the best pass rushes in the game. When you start to look at the likes of Danielle Hunter, Danico Autry, both guys who had over 11 sacks last year, and then the defensive rookie of the year in year 2 with Will Anderson, and the defensive blitz packages. This has to be and could be one of the best pass rushes in the game. My question is, do you feel like right now it's good enough to protect that secondary? Do you feel good enough about the secondary that they can hold up with this pass rush?
That's tough for me to get there.
And I know we'll see more when camp starts, but just at this point right now, with what they've done, they're going to get a lot of help from the guys up front. But
yeah, the inability to get push from the inside is a major concern for me versus a pass, and the inability to not get pushed back into the laps of your linebacker is a problem for me with this particular front. And so while I think Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter have a chance to be 2 of the best edge rushing duos in the game, it is hard to do it alone. It's hard to do it if you don't get the push inside or the penetration inside that you expect. Now, look, I think Danico Autry moving down there is going to help. In obvious passing situations, I think that's going to help. But boy, I think out of the gate right now, Ron, I would think that they're going to have a problem inside. Obviously, 3rd and 6 or longer, 3rd and 8 and longer. Let me look. Those are. I mean, you just pin your ears back and go eat. It's hard to really fail in those situations, especially when you guys got guys like Will and Danico Autry and Danielle Hunter. But in situations throughout a game where teams are play action and teams are able to get into a groove, I think the Texans are going to ultimately end up struggling because there's going to be a lack of push inside. So can this pass rush make up?
Because they're going to have to help those guys back there.
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
going to, you know what I mean?
They all.
At least of what we see right now.
Look, all the great defenses do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rarely, and this doesn't get talked about enough in NFL in general. Usually, if a DB has a great year, obviously he's all pro, he's Pro Bowl, and very rarely do we go, oh well, let's every time we talk about how good this cat is, let's make sure we mention he's got a defensive tackle that's one of the best in the league at pushing the pocket, and they've got a defensive coordinator that's great at scheming things up and confusing protections and confusing quarterbacks. Like, very rarely do we do that. But 9 times out of 10, there are some exceptions to the rule, but 9 times out of 10, when you have a corner or you have a secondary that's just a lockdown secondary, 9 times out of 10 it comes with a really, really, really good front. Not just a good pass rushing front, but some dominant dudes that dominate first down, second down, third down, whatever the hell the situation is.
That's what people said maybe a big Maury Lester with the amount of time he had to cover at Georgia. The amount of time he had to cover at Georgia with all them dudes up front in front of him the last couple of years, maybe a bit different than he had to before. I think there's some good and some bad with this, Clint. I think the good is obviously Derek Stingley. If he plays the way he played at the end of last year, then you got what appears to be a lockdown corner. And that can help you be able to help in a lot of other different areas.
Absolutely.
If he can stay healthy and be that dude. The other part is, look, I know Henderson and Okudah are they're bust right now, but I think we've talked about it. They're at least really talented guys, right? You know, they have the clear ability and talent to play the position. Like, they're a lot more talented physically than a Steven Nelson is, either one of them. Now, I don't know if they're on the level of consistency of what Steven Nelson is, but they are better. So at least with that. And you got to, and Lassiter and King, I think you probably got really good options there. My concern is I think there's a potential they can hold up. But this is something you've referenced the last week or two. Damn, they play some quarterbacks.
Come on, man.
And you know, the type of quarterbacks they play, you know, can get the ball in spaces even when they're pressured, even when they're being hit, and you know, to blitz them and pressure things that can hurt them. They just have such a gauntlet of quarterbacks that there is a sense where if they're not getting the right amount of pressure, you could see some areas where some of the guys in the secondary could get taken advantage of by the quarterback play. That's the down part to me. Is you've talked about this. They've got everybody you can almost think of on this.
Yeah, look, you're playing quarterbacks right now on this schedule, and pretty much it's going to be week in, week out. And offensive coordinators on the side of the football where the Tavier Thomas situation is not going to work.
Yeah,
like it ain't gonna be week 8. It ain't gonna be week 8 whenever they find that duck, right?
Luckily, they shouldn't be in that.
Right? Yeah, that's the good thing is you shouldn't be in that. But if you are, let's say you do decide you want to start a Kamari Lassiter on the outside, and maybe he is a corner that you want teams to try him. That's fine. But if he proves to not have the ability and not be ready, and they stick him out there, you're playing quarterbacks right now that are gonna the first chance where you put him on an island, they're going to take a shot, right? And they're going to continue to do that until you adjust, which then is going to force D'Amico Ryans to have safeties back, which limits half of his playbook now and makes it more difficult on the defensive front. And those things are a major problem. Now, I don't foresee the Texans doing that because I think he's going to play inside. I think a little battle outside with C.J. Henderson and Jeff Okudah, and we'll see if those guys can hold up. But that's the problem is if you do have a duck somewhere, when you've got the quarterbacks that you have on the schedule this year, they're going to find it. They're going to keep going back to that well until you make a change, and it's going to come week in, week out.
Yeah, from the text line, hell no, I ain't comfortable with our D-backs. Need to make a move and grab one of those guys now. Commanders, cornerback Kendall Fuller, Xavier McKinney with the Giants. Justin Simmons, feels like there needs to be a move made. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm with you. I can understand why you're not comfortable. I think one thing that I think it is connected is to see how good this pass rush will be. How good, if there is an issue in the middle where there's not being pushed, if that becomes a problem. Because if this pass rush, we watched the pass rush help the secondary last year. We watched Stingley missed a lot of games, and there was a point where I remember against Joe Burrow, Sheldon Rankins had 3 sacks in that game himself, and there was a pass rush that helped the secondary at times. So, you know, that's the part. And this pass rush should be better than it was last year.
On the outside.
On the outside.
On the outside, it is. It's going to be for sure. With Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins inside, I don't know. I mean, you had those guys were when it came to rushing the passer, those guys were pretty effective. Especially Sheldon Rankins had a good year last year. Again, you move really got bigger, more physical presence in rushing the passer than those guys, and clearly is had a better year last year with the 11.5 sacks. But again, to me, it's not like I think the Texans are going to be fine in obvious passing situations. To me, is you got to play first and second down. You got to and again you're playing quarterbacks where they're not going to wait until it's 3rd and 9 to attack you, right? They're going to know, hey, on first down or second down, we're better off when we know they don't have the ability to get the penetration and the push up front before they go to their pin your ears back pass rush that D'Amico Ryans can do. We're going to need to make have some success on first and second down passing the football, and they're going to attack that way. If indeed that pass rush is that damn good, which I think it's going to be good. I don't know, I think it's going to be good. It's just it's hard in today's football for me personally to go, yeah, this is going to be a dominant pass rush when you
don't have a dominant inside guy.
Well, we're talking about a day and age in football where, I mean, the best, most effective players in a pass rush today are your defensive tackles. I mean, if you don't have a defensive tackle that can get push, then your quarterback just drops deep, slides right back up in the pocket. Tackles are so athletic right now where you just push them right by it, and it's no big deal. Like you got to have some dudes inside, and I just don't know that the Texans have that dude. Now, somebody may surprise me, but I just don't know that they have it. So I'm concerned about that part of the pass rush inside.